You are not inadequate, Octavia. You are merely too grand for small minds. In 7 moons, you will be my queen." King Sebastian's words echoed through the great hall as 300 pairs of eyes fixed upon the rejected Omega, who had just endured public humiliation. But would this royal promise be a decree of destiny or a death sentence disguised? Like this video, and tell me in the comments where you are watching this epic tale of transformation and power. The scent of burning sandalwood and contempt still lingered in the icy air as the temperature plummeted drastically, signaling that nothing would ever be the same. Moments before, Octavia had experienced the deepest abasement of her existence. Her knees trembled uncontrollably beneath the coarse silk of her faded yellow gown, a hue she had chosen in the naive hope of appearing more vibrant, more desirable. Yet nothing could disguise what she truly was in the eyes of the Lycan elite, an anomaly, a flawed cog in the perfect machinery of Valoria's society. Lord Roderick, the third alpha to whom her father had desperately sought to marry her off, was not content with merely refusing the union. He required an audience, a public validation of his superiority. With a voice theatrically projected to reach every corner of the ornate hall, he had enumerated her flaws as if they were crimes against Lycan nature itself. "This Omega possesses too sharp a tongue for her station," he had declared, prowling in circles around her like a predator toying with its prey. "She demonstrates an unnatural interest in border treaties when she should be dreaming of pups, and most unacceptable of all." He paused dramatically, allowing the silence to amplify his forthcoming pronouncements. "She insolently refuses to lower her gaze before her superiors." The ensuing silence was not born of pity or embarrassment for Roderick's cruel methods. It was of social validation. Octavia felt the overwhelming weight of 300 gazes silently concurring that she was defective, inadequate, an aberration who had dared to aspire to a place that did not belong to her. Murmurs of assent rippled through the throng like venomous currents. "Truth be told," Lady Evangeline whispered to her companion, loud enough for Octavia to overhear, "a questioning Omega is like a wolf that refuses to howl, against nature." Octavia did not weep. She dug her nails into her palms until droplets of blood stained her pale skin, steadfastly refusing to grant them the satisfaction of the fragility they so eagerly anticipated. But her inner wolf howled with a grief that cut deeper than any physical wound. It was the agony of absolute rejection, not merely from a suitor, but from an entire society that had deemed her utterly worthless. Her father, Lord Edmund, remained by the empty throne, his face crimsoned with shame and fury. This was the third public rejection his daughter had wrought upon their lineage. The initial 2 had been more discreet, polite refusals conveyed in formal missives. But Roderick had elected to make this a declarative statement, a calculated humiliation destined to echo across the kingdom. "Perhaps," Roderick continued, his voice acquiring a tone of feigned contemplation, "it is time to concede that some Omegas are simply not blessed with the proper instincts to form an appropriate family unit." It was at this precise juncture, as Roderick's words still vibrated within the heavy air, that everything irrevocably shifted. The temperature within the great hall plummeted with such stark abruptness that vapor began to coalesce upon the chandelier crystals. The scent of ozone and impending storm suffocated the cloying, cheap perfumes of the assembled guests, supplanting them with something primeval and perilous. There was no herald, no fanfare, merely the unmistakable sensation that an apex predator had entered its domain. King Sebastian did not merely walk to the center of the hall. He prowled, a force of nature enshrouded in velvet midnight that seemed to absorb the very light around him. Each step was calculated, deliberate, as though he were not merely traversing physical distance, but assessing every soul within the chamber. His midnight black hair was drawn back, revealing a visage that could have been chiseled from obsidian by the very war gods themselves. He did not immediately gaze upon Octavia. His golden eyes, burning with a fury so glacial it seemed capable of freezing blood in one's veins, fixed upon Lord Roderick with an intensity that made the younger Alpha recoil involuntarily. Lord Roderick. Sebastian's voice was deadly calm, each word pronounced with surgical precision. I found myself intrigued by something during your performance. Roderick attempted to reclaim his composure, straightening his shoulders and forcing an arrogant smile. Your Majesty honors me with your presence. I trust you comprehend the necessity of frankness concerning marital matters that could impact the stability of noble bloodlines. Oh, I comprehend perfectly, Sebastian retorted, beginning to circle Roderick much as the Alpha had done to Octavia. What truly intrigues me is the inherent fragility of an Alpha who feels so thoroughly threatened by an Omega's intelligence. A profound, deadly silence descended upon the hall. None dared even to breathe too loudly. Threatened, Your Majesty? Roderick attempted a laugh, but the sound emerged forced and sharp. Certainly there is no threat, merely an incompatibility of temperaments. Incompatibility, Sebastian echoed the word, a venomous vintage on his tongue. An intriguing descriptor for your incapacity to discern a mind capable of forging greater prosperity for your lands, more strategic alliances, and a more enduring legacy. Each syllable was a honed blade, meticulously dissecting Roderick's ego before his peers with an artistry verging on the cruel. Octavia watched, a curious fascination eclipsing her own recent anguish, as the continent's most formidable king decimated a man without once raising his voice. Perhaps, Sebastian continued, halting directly before Roderick, the true query is not whether Lady Octavia is adequate for you, but whether you are adequate for any Omega possessing a functional intellect. Roderick's complexion blanched, his hands clenching into impotent fists. He knew the folly of directly defying King Sebastian. Instead, he opted for a hasty tactical retreat. Naturally, I defer to your Majesty's superior discernment in all matters, he mumbled, his voice barely a whisper. How sagacious of you, Sebastian countered, a chilling smile that never quite touched his golden eyes. Then, with measured, deliberate grace, he turned towards Octavia. The raw impact of his gaze was palpable. No trace of softness graced his countenance, no expression of pity or condescension she had come to anticipate. Instead, an intense recognition blazed, as if appraising a weapon of formidable craftsmanship, not a broken woman. His golden eyes scoured her with an intensity that seemed to pierce her very soul, cataloging not her vulnerabilities, but her latent strengths. Within Octavia, something dormant stirred, an ember smothered by years of rejection and humiliation. It was as if his unwavering gaze summoned forth her true self, one she had interred beneath layers of desperate attempts to conform to others' dictates. Lady Octavia, his voice transformed as he addressed her. Where Arctic disdain had been for Roderick, now resonated an intonation she could not entirely decipher. Respect, perhaps, or profound recognition. She met his challenging gaze directly, refusing to avert her eyes as all others implicitly expected. Your Majesty. For a singular moment, stretched taut across eternity, their gazes locked, a silent communion. The entire great hall held its collective breath, an unspoken reverence settling upon them, sensing they bore witness to something monumental, though its exact nature remained shrouded in mystery. Then, Sebastian extended his right hand. It bore the indelible markings of conflict, each white scar a testament to victories won and foes vanquished. This was not the pampered hand of a decorative monarch, but the iron-forged grip of a warrior who had seized his throne with blood and shrewd strategy. You are not inadequate, Octavia, he declared, his voice imbued with an authority that sent a primal shiver through every soul present. You are merely too grand for small minds. The declaration reverberated through the great hall like a peal of thunder, and Octavia felt a fundamental shift within her very core. No one had ever before described her perceived flaws as a testament to her grandeur. But Sebastian was not finished. In 7 moons, he continued, his voice rising to ensure every soul in the hall heard clearly, "You will be my queen." It was not a plea. It was not a romantic overture. It was a fateful decree, a pronouncement that instantly rewrote both their futures. The hall erupted in a cacophony of stunned whispers. Lord Edmund nearly swooned, clutching the edge of a table for support. Lady Evangeline dropped her wine goblet, the crimson liquid spreading across the marble floor like spilled blood. Octavia gazed at the outstretched hand, her heart pounding so fiercely she was certain all could hear it. This was the true crossroads. To accept meant stepping into a world she knew little of, a realm of lethal politics and crushing expectations that could shatter her. To refuse, to defy the king was not an option. But as she placed her trembling hand into his, feeling the warmth and formidable strength that emanated from his battle-scarred skin, she knew she was not accepting out of fear. There was something in the way he had championed her intellect, how he had transformed her supposed flaws into virtues, that stirred a dormant part of her soul, that had yearned for recognition for years. "I accept," she declared, her voice resonating with surprising fortitude. The smile Sebastian offered her then was small, yet profound. And for the first time in months, Octavia no longer felt like a shattered fragment awaiting repair. Octavia was transported to the Iron Citadel that very night, not as a captive, but as a reluctant guest in a game whose intricate rules remained elusive. Sebastian's fortress rose against the night sky like a dark spear, its towers piercing the low-hanging clouds that perpetually shrouded the northern kingdom of Valoria. The royal carriage swayed gently over the paved roads, yet Octavia barely registered the motion. Her mind seethed with unspoken inquiries. Why her? Why this moment? And above all, what did Sebastian truly envision for her? The first surprise came upon their arrival at the castle. Instead of being escorted to traditional feminine chambers, adorned with pastel silks and blossoms, Sebastian personally guided her through austere stone corridors to a suite within the East Tower suites. The quarters were elegant yet eminently functional, dominated by an expansive library and a massive writing desk, strategically placed before a panoramic window overlooking the northern valleys. "These shall be your quarters," he stated, keenly observing her reaction. "I surmised you would favor scrolls over embroidery." It was an astute deduction that left her subtly disquieted. How did he discern her inclinations when even her own kin remained oblivious? The initial weeks proved a relentless trial of her resolve. Octavia had braced herself for the customary overtures of courtship, perhaps bedecked with jewels and gallantries, or even sequestered to a remote wing of the Iron Citadel, while Sebastian pursued affairs of state. Instead, he did the unthinkable. He put her to work. On the inaugural morning, a retainer presented not blossoms with her breakfast, but a formidable stack of economic reports detailing the autumn harvests. His Majesty requests your discerning insight into the discrepancies within the southern province's figures, the man imparted before his deferent withdrawal. Octavia spent the morning wholly engrossed in the documents, her analytical mind immediately discerning inconsistent patterns that suggested either administrative incompetence or deliberate corruption. When Sebastian appeared at midday, he found her ensconced amidst meticulously organized papers, detailed annotations rendered in her elegant script. "And so?" he queried, approaching the table without ceremony. "Someone is pilfering," she stated plainly, indicating a series of calculations. "The discrepancies are too diminutive to be errors, yet too pervasive to be mere coincidences. Moreover, they adhere to a pattern indicative of intimate knowledge of audit cycles." Sebastian scrutinized her annotations for several silent minutes. Then, he slowly inclined his head. "You have arrived at the same conclusion my council of elders required 3 weeks to formulate. And what action will be taken?" "That depends," he uttered, his golden eyes meeting hers. "Do you possess suggestions?" It was a crucible, she realized. not merely of her analytical prowess, but of her willingness to engage with the brutal realities of political power. To publicly expose the corruption would be gratifying, she articulated slowly, but also destabilizing. A more sagacious approach would entail a discreet investigation to identify the culprits and facilitate silent recovery of the funds, followed by an administrative reorganization that renders the scheme far more arduous to replicate. And if the corrupt parties are scions of politically prominent families? Octavia hesitated for but a single, infinitesimal moment. Then Your Majesty must ascertain whether immediate political stability or the long-term integrity of the kingdom is of greater import. Yet, in my estimation, tolerance for corruption is like tolerance for gangrene. It may seem easier to ignore initially, but eventually, it kills the entire organism. The smile Sebastian bestowed upon her was approving, yet it also harbored a deeper resonance. Satisfaction, perhaps. As if she had merely affirmed a truth he had long suspected about her. The second week heralded the inaugural grand revelation. Sebastian materialized in her East Tower suites, bearing a formidable stack of time-worn parchments. Without ceremony, he cast them onto her work desk, where they landed with a muted thud. "Do you recognize these?" he inquired. Octavia leaned in to scrutinize the parchments, and her very blood ran cold. They constituted a formidable collection. Political essays, meticulously argued critiques of the kingdom's economic policies, astute analyses of international trade relations, and detailed blueprints for administrative reforms. Every single one penned under the enigmatic pseudonym Corvus Sapiens, and every single one her own creation. "How?" she stammered, her voice utterly failing her. "I ascertained Corvus Sapiens' identity approximately a year ago," Sebastian stated, settling with deliberate grace into a nearby armchair. "I must admit, I was initially profoundly intrigued. Here was someone possessing a sophisticated grasp of the kingdom's structural maladies, offering pragmatic solutions rather than mere empty criticisms. Imagine my profound astonishment upon discovering this anonymous, sagacious counselor was an inadequate omega, whom her own peers deemed utterly defective." Octavia sank heavily into her chair, the revelation's full impact striking her like a physical blow. "You knew. You always knew." "I did," he confirmed, his gaze unwavering. "Which means my pledge in the Great Hall was no impulsive act of chivalry, Octavia. It was a strategic decision, meticulously predicated on months of observing your formidable intellect and work." The dynamic between them shifted instantaneously, irrevocably. The pervasive dread she had felt receded, yielding now to an intellectual wariness, a burgeoning comprehension that she was entangled in a far more intricate, perilous game than she had ever envisioned. "Why did you not reveal this to me sooner?" "Because I needed to observe how you would react to immense pressure, how you would operate under unceasing public scrutiny. It is one matter to pen anonymous critiques from the sanctuary of your private library. It is another entirely to implement tangible reforms beneath the hostile, unforgiving gaze of a court that scrutinizes your every movement and breath." Octavia meticulously scrutinized his visage, seeking any telltale sign of manipulation or insidious duplicity. Instead, she witnessed something that profoundly astonished her: an undeniable, unfeigned respect. And what if I had faltered in the test? Then I would have honorably devised a respectful means to annul the commitment after a few weeks, he conceded without hesitation. "But you did not falter, Octavia. Indeed, you have surpassed my considerable, indeed my most fervent expectations." They labored together that day, and in the epical days that followed, with an synergy that astonished them both. Octavia discerned that Sebastian was far more than a brutal warrior. He was a sophisticated strategist, with a profound comprehension of the intricate forces shaping his kingdom. He, in turn, seemed genuinely invigorated by finally having an intellectual equal, someone capable of not merely paralleling, but actively challenging his intricate thought. Yet the Iron Citadel, she swiftly ascertained, was an undeniable viper's nest, lying in insidious wait for any discernible sign of vulnerability. The venerable Council of Elders, helmed by the inflexibly conservative Lord Malachi, perceived the burgeoning presence of a defective Omega as a direct affront to the hallowed royal lineage and the sacred traditions of the kingdom. Malachi himself was a tall, gaunt man, with hair white as freshly fallen snow and eyes that seemed capable of discerning heresy from leagues away. Unfathomable, Octavia overheard him whisper to a crony during a formal reception in the 3rd week. An Omega who spurns proper deference, who dares to debate statecraft as though her intellectual peer. It is an aberration, a desecration of the natural order. And perilously so, chimed in Lord Thaddeus, a corpulent man whose political inclinations mirrored Malachi's rigid conservatism. Should other Omegas begin to harbor ambitions beyond their prescribed station, it shall portend the unraveling of our very civilization, Malachi concluded with grim finality. Octavia swiftly mastered the labyrinthine corridors of the Iron Citadel, moving with a vigilance sharpened by necessity. Eavesdroppers lurked in every shadow. Eyes tracked her every subtle gesture, and minds relentlessly schemed to transmute her every misstep into political ammunition. Within the 3rd month, while immersed in a particularly intricate endeavor to recalibrate the northern province's mercantile routes, her astute grasp of political geography poised to avert an impending famine in the Highland territories, Octavia unearthed a revelation that would shatter all preceding certainties. She was meticulously cataloging ancient documents within the strategic library when her fingers brushed against an anomaly. A parchment, hidden amongst archaic mercantile treaties, sealed with a brittle black wax. The royal cipher upon it was fractured, hinting at a desperate, failed attempt to reseal its contents. Prudence warred with an insatiable intellectual hunger, and curiosity. A potent force unequivocally prevailed. What lay within instantly congealed the blood in her veins. It was a medical diagnosis, penned in archaic Latin by one of the kingdom's most venerated healers. The formidable words writhed before her gaze as she painstakingly deciphered them. Silver famine. Progressive desiccation of the lupine essence. No known panacea. Finite life expectancy. Only whispers of ancient lore speak of reversal through a true mate bond of unparalleled fortitude. King Sebastian, the Lycan king, was slowly succumbing. The parchment quivered in her grasp as she grappled with the enormity of its revelations. The silver famine, a lineage curse whispered of only in the most obscure ancient texts, was a malevolent affliction that inexorably devoured a werewolf's intrinsic connection to their primal essence, until naught but a hollow human husk remained. And then, not even that ghost of existence. Her formidable analytical mind, a weapon honed by years of societal ostracization, instantly began to weave together disparate observations she had once dismissed. The fleeting pallor that occasionally bleached King Sebastian's features after arduous council meetings. The subtle, yet pronounced hesitations that sometimes fractured his pronouncements, as if he wrestled with a failing grasp on concentration. The almost frantic fervor with which he prosecuted the kingdom's myriad affairs, akin to a monarch striving to complete a monumental legacy before the final sands of the hourglass fell. And the ancient legend hinted at within the parchment's cryptic script. Only a true mate who can shoulder the crown's immense burden through her own intrinsic merit, and not merely by the ephemeral claim of blood, can anchor his fracturing soul. He did not require a mere ornamental queen to grace his opulent court. He desperately needed a veritable pillar of indomitable iron, lest the entire kingdom of Valoria plunge into an abyss of anarchy upon his inevitable demise. Octavia lingered in the strategic library far past the midnight hour, poring over the diagnosis and scouring ancient texts for any additional lore regarding the curse. What she unearthed offered no solace. The silver famine was a progressive and, in its final throes, excruciatingly painful affliction. Sebastian's continued functionality suggested he remained in its nascent stages, Yet this revelation also confirmed that time was a relentless, dwindling commodity. When she finally returned to her East Tower suites, she found Sebastian awaiting her, ensconced in an armchair near the hearth. The fire cast capering shadows across his countenance, sharply accentuating the lines of tension she now perceived had always been etched there. "Did your researches yield anything of particular interest?" he inquired casually, though his golden gaze probed her with its characteristic intensity. Octavia hesitated. To confront him directly would be a profound trespass upon his privacy, yet to feign ignorance, now possessed of such intimate understanding of his plight, felt equally disingenuous. "Why did you not speak of the silver famine?" she finally demanded. The ensuing silence was laden with a multiplicity of tensions. Sebastian betrayed no astonishment at her discovery, which suggested he had anticipated her acuity would inevitably lead her to the truth. "Because," he stated slowly, "I desired your decision to remain untainted by pity." "Pity?" The word sliced forth, sharper than she had intended. "Do you truly believe pity would be my primary reaction upon discovering that the man who chose to reforge my very destiny was confronting a sentence of demise?" Sebastian leaned slightly forward. "And what, then, is your primary reaction?" Octavia weighed the inquiry with deliberate precision. Shock, assuredly. Fear for their collective future. But above all, a fiery defiance against the very destiny that threatened to pilfer from him, from them, the nascent promise of what they might yet forge together. "Defiance," she declared finally. "My reaction is defiance." Something shifted in Sebastian's expression. The regal mask of control he habitually wore slipped imperceptibly, revealing a vulnerability she had never before glimpsed. "The ancient legends may prove fallacious," he cautioned. "There may be no cure, merely unfounded hopes born of archaic superstition." "Or," Octavia retorted, advancing toward him with escalating resolve, "the legends may be precisely accurate, and you simply had not found a befitting consort until now." They beheld each other across the diminishing chasm between them, and Octavia felt a seismic shift in the very atmosphere. It was no longer a mere calculus of political expediency or kingdom strategy. It was profoundly, irrevocably personal, and revelation that simultaneously terrified and invigorated her spirit. "I have a condition," she stated. "State it." "No more secrets between us. If we are to attempt to shatter an ancient curse, I must comprehend every facet, every nuanced detail of your affliction, every whisper of the legend, every perilous risk we face." Sebastian nodded slowly. "What if your discoveries prove more dire? Then we face it together," she declared with conviction that astonished them both. Sebastian's harrowing secret forged poignant intimacy, reshaping their alliance. Octavia, ever shielded, underestimated, and deemed frail, became the vital anchor for the continent's most formidable Lycan. Nights blurred in the strategic library, amidst ancient texts seeking wisdom. Sebastian divulged his affliction. Sudden, debilitating exhaustion, insidious erosion of his wolf connection, dread of forfeiting leadership. "It commenced 2 years past," he elucidated during a vigil, fingers tracing the oak table. "Initially, I blamed war attrition against southern provinces. Then the stark realization, I no longer perceived my wolf with old clarity." Octavia absorbed every utterance, her formidable analytical mind discerning patterns. "Lore states only a mate bond of exceptional strength anchors a Lycan's soul. What precisely does this portend?" "None comprehend its full scope," Sebastian conceded, a rare vulnerability. "The chronicles are enigmatic. Yet, tradition posits one must rule autonomously, not merely through kingly association. An Omega championing treatises under Corvus Sapiens?" A rare smile graced his lips, the first true mirth since discovery. "Precisely, an Omega championing treatises under Corvus Sapiens." It was during these shared nights their profound connection began. Not via candlelight suppers or garden promenades, but forged in impassioned economic policy debates, culminating in silences charged with electric tension. Sebastian challenged her, compelling her to champion propositions, treating her as his intellectual peer, a gravitas no man had bestowed. This, Octavia recognized, was the most potent aphrodisiac her spirit encountered. "Your proposed tax system overhaul possesses undeniable elegance," he observed, scrutinizing her calculations. "But have you accounted for inevitable political resistance from entrenched families who conspicuously benefit?" "Assuredly I have," she retorted, deftly turning the parchment. "Hence my counsel: deliberate, phased implementation over 3 years, commencing with provinces most amenable to reform." Their fingers briefly grazed as both reached for the same document, and Octavia felt an ephemeral spark of electricity course through her skin. When she looked up, she found Sebastian observing her with a rapt intensity that quickened her pulse to a frantic cadence. "You are extraordinary," he uttered in a hushed tone, his voice laden with an ineffable emotion that transcended mere words. "I am practical," she asserted, her voice emerging as a faint, breathless whisper. "Nay," he countered, his hand enveloping hers atop the ancient parchment. "You are extraordinary, and I am a veritable fool for the aeons it took me to find you." Yet even as the nascent romance burgeoned between them, a persistent, insidious doubt gnawed at Octavia. Did he truly cherish her? Or was he merely harnessing her as a potent antidote? The demarcation between desperate exigency and unadulterated affection sometimes appeared perilously fine. In the 5th moon of her sojourn within the Iron Citadel, this gnawing question was temporarily eclipsed by a far more immediate and perfidious peril. The full moon festival, the zenith of the royal social calendar, drew nobles from every corner of the kingdom of Valoria for 3 nights of elaborate festivities. Octavia had endured similar galas before, yet always as a negligible omega consigned to the periphery. Now, as the king's betrothed, she was the undisputed cynosure of all eyes. The pressure was a crushing, tangible entity. Every gown, pronouncement, and nuanced facial expression would be minutely scrutinized and ruthlessly judged by scores of critical gazes. Sebastian had ensured her access to the kingdom's foremost couturiers, and the gown she was to wear on the principal night was a veritable masterpiece of blood-red silk, intricately embroidered with golden threads that ensnared the ambient light like myriad miniature flames. "You are apprehensive," Sebastian observed, as they prepared for the inaugural night of festivities. "Terrified" would prove a more precise descriptor, she admitted, absent-mindedly adjusting her diamond earrings for the 5th consecutive time. "They cannot assail you," he declared, stepping behind her, his hand settling upon her shoulders with a reassuring weight. "You possess my unyielding protection." Yet regal protection, Octavia was poised to discern, possessed distinct limitations when the menace emanated from within the very hallowed walls. The 1st and 2nd nights transpired without overt incident, though Octavia felt the incessant burden of disapproving glances and venomous, whispered murmurs. It was on the 3rd night, during the formal banquet, that the meticulously crafted facade began its precipitous collapse. The dinner was an elaborate production of a 12 courses, each accompanied by exquisitely curated wines. Octavia was seated at the dais to Sebastian's immediate right, a position of unparalleled honor that visibly rankled several venerable council members. The conversation flowed with an outward veneer of civility, yet Octavia could discern the perilous undercurrents of latent tensions beneath the deceptively placid surface. It was amidst the 8th course, a hearty lamb stew infused with aromatic herbs, that a discordant note reached her senses. The aroma ascending from her goblet of wine was subtly, unsettlingly amiss. A cloying sweetness, veiled beneath the robust grape, permeated the air, a presence profoundly out of place. Her years of unnatural devotion to botanical lore now emerged as an unlikely shield, preserving her very breath. Instead of partaking, She feigned engrossment in conversation with the lady to her left, all while subtly drawing the wine's scent deeper. The sweet note intensified, sending a chilling tremor of recognition through her. Morrigan's tears, a rare, insidious plant whose potent extract remained virtually undetectable when infused into red wine, yet capable of inducing cardiac arrest in sufficient dosage. Someone sought her demise. Octavia returned the goblet to the table, her hands remarkably steady, even as her mind raced through a maelstrom of possibilities. Who commanded access to the royal kitchens? Who possessed the esoteric botanical knowledge to wield such a specific poison? And most crucially, who stood to gain from her obliteration? Is something amiss? Sebastian's voice was a low murmur, his gaze piercing as he noted her untouched goblet. Perhaps this warrants a private discourse, she murmured in return. He assessed her for a fleeting moment, then gave a decisive nod. Lady Octavia finds herself slightly indisposed, he announced to the assembled court. I shall escort her to her East Tower suites. Only when the sanctum of her private quarters enveloped them did she disclose the venomous truth. Sebastian meticulously examined the goblet she had discreetly brought forth, his countenance darkening with each passing moment as her suspicions found grim confirmation. Morrigan's tears, he stated at last, his voice edged with lethal precision. This is the work of one intimately familiar with its properties, and one with considerable access to the royal kitchens, Octavia added, her mind already charting the conspiracy. They toiled through the night, their combined intellects meticulously dissecting the labyrinthine paths to culpability. What they unearthed was a perfidy that cut far deeper than any external adversary's strike. The insidious trail led not to the overt political adversaries, nor the conservative members of the Council of Elders, though their sympathy for the objective was starkly evident. Instead, it unraveled into a conspiracy that ensnared members of Octavia's own bloodline. Lord Edmund, her father, had been swayed by the Council of Elders with an unassailable offer: a substantial cache of gold, additional territories, and most crucially, the promise of his lineage's purification from the ignominy of having begotten an inadequate Omega. Her younger sister, Lady Cordelia, had facilitated access to the kitchens through her network among the castle's staff. The full breadth of this treachery was unveiled through an intercepted letter, penned in Cordelia's familiar hand and addressed to a notorious specialist in venomous botany. Its contents were clinically precise and horrifyingly specific, detailing dosages and insidious methods of administration. Octavia remained in absolute silence for prolonged minutes after King Sebastian's resonant voice ceased the damning missive. A fractured part of her soul had always apprehended her family's disdain, yet their murderous intent to salvage the honor of their lineage shattered a foundational pillar of her very being. Their hatred runs this deep, she intoned finally, her voice unnervingly serene. No, Sebastian retorted with a primal ferocity that startled her. They are so utterly terrified of your inherent power that they would rather obliterate you than concede their monumental error regarding your supposed inadequacy. It was King Sebastian who meticulously gathered the fragments of her spirit as the stark reality of her family's profound perfidy finally struck. Octavia, whose entire existence had been a desperate pursuit of validation, at last comprehended the truth. It had never been about her. It was about their profound dread that she would irrevocably prove them mistaken about the true potential of an Omega. My profound apologies, Sebastian murmured, enfolding her as the dam of her composure finally broke. I lament that those sworn to your protection chose instead the path of betrayal. I should have perceived it, she wept against his chest. The portents were undeniably present. No, he declared with unyielding resolve, gently cupping her chin to compel her gaze to meet his. One should never be compelled to suspect patricidal intent from their own blood. This is not your failing, Octavia. It is unequivocally theirs. That night, for the first time since her arrival within the Iron Citadel, King Sebastian unveiled a profound, rare vulnerability, confessing that the throne had been a solitary, gilded cage until her advent. For countless years, he confessed, I reigned, acutely aware that every soul within my orbit harbored an ulterior agenda. Each calculated smile, every feigned word of support, every elaborate display of loyalty was meticulously designed for personal gain. Prior to your arrival, I possessed no comprehension of what it meant to converse with one who esteemed veracity above political machination. And now you possess that knowledge, she responded, her tears finally abating. And now I know, he affirmed, that discovering you was the most profound blessing ever bestowed upon me, curse or not. As the seventh moon inexorably approached its zenith, the ultimate impediment to their destined union revealed itself as more intransigent than any intricate conspiracy or ancient curse. For the ancient curse's cure to fully manifest and their royal marriage to be sanctified before the hallowed laws of the kingdom, the sacred mate bond needed to awaken naturally before the solstice. Absent its genuine manifestation, any union would be deemed merely a political alliance, utterly incapable of providing the spiritual anchorage vital to shattering the dread silver famine. The profound challenge lay in this. Despite the burgeoning emotional nexus that had intertwined their souls and the undeniable physical allure that caused the air to crackle whenever they shared a space, the supernatural bond remained defiantly, agonizingly silent. Sebastian elaborated upon the very essence of the mate bond, an unceasing awareness of the other, a profound sense of completeness that transcended mere physical allure or emotional accord. It was to be an immediately recognizable, indomitable force, one that could neither be feigned nor coerced. Perhaps, Octavia posited during one of their increasingly desperate nocturnal colloquies, we are striving too strenuously. Perhaps the bond demands spontaneity. Or perhaps, Sebastian countered with a brutal honesty that chilled her to the bone. The ancient legends err concerning us. Perhaps you are not my true mate, merely one whom I love profoundly. The word love lingered between them, an unbidden confession. It was the first utterance of the term from either, and its timing could not have been more unfathomably cruel. Do you love me? She inquired. Unreservedly, he stated without a tremor, which only renders this predicament more agonizing. The Council of Elders, predictably, wielded the bond's stubborn absence as irrefutable proof of Octavia's inherent inadequacy. Lord Malachi convened daily conclaves where he and his staunch allies vociferously argued that the lack of a supernatural bond was divine evidence of an unnatural union, one that ought to be immediately forsaken. Destiny itself spurns this alliance, he declared during a particularly fraught assembly. No measure of mortal will can compel what the gods have divinely prescribed. Sebastian endured these sessions with a patience that was visibly evaporating. Octavia observed the muscles coiling in his shoulders, the white-knuckled clench of his fists whenever Malachi spoke, and the perilous gleam that entered his golden eyes if anyone dared to question her legitimacy as his chosen queen. 2 weeks prior to the final deadline, the escalating tension culminated in an unforeseen climax. Sebastian, acutely aware of his Lycan essence waning with accelerating speed as the seventh moon approached its zenith, made a decision that profoundly shocked even Octavia. He sought to absolve her from their sacred commitment. I cannot condemn you to widowhood before you are properly wed, he declared, during a private confrontation that left them both emotionally ravaged. If the mate bond fails to manifest in the coming days, I shall sever our pact. You possess no right to usurp that decision alone, she retorted, her fury a shockwave that startled him. I possess the right to safeguard the woman I love from a life steeped in regret. And I possess the right to forge my own regrets. The discourse escalated, their voices rising to raw shouts, echoing through the cold stone corridors of the Iron Citadel. It was their first true quarrel, exacerbated by months of accumulated pressure and the torment of loving one whom fate had seemingly denied them. You are casting aside all hope, Octavia accused, her words cutting like sharpened blades. I am exercising pragmatism, Sebastian countered. "You are being a coward." The silence that followed was laden with unspoken wounds and painful truths. Sebastian had chosen her well-being above his own survival, a profound testament that his initial quest for utility had transmuted into genuine, selfless love. Yet, this noble sacrifice was consuming them both. It was Octavia who shattered the impasse in a manner none had foreseen. Enraged by his attempt to surrender, she resolved to confront the council directly. The following morning, without warning or permission, she stormed the elders' convocation. The meeting was held in the council chambers, an intimidating expanse dominated by a massive circular table hewn from dark oak. The 12 most potent members of the kingdom were present, including Lord Malachi, who presided with his customary unyielding authority. Octavia entered unceremoniously, her skirts billowing like the unfurling wings of a formidable raptor. Guards attempted to intercept her, but she swept past them, utterly disregarding their presence, striding to the room's epicenter. "Gentlemen," she declared, her voice slicing through startled conversations. "I gather you harbor concerns regarding my suitability as queen." The ensuing silence was absolute, a void of suspended breath. Lord Malachi recovered first, his countenance twisting with acute indignation. "Lady Octavia," he pronounced, his voice glacial, "this is a private council meeting. Your presence was neither solicited, nor is it welcome." "My presence," she retorted, her tone remarkably composed, "is necessary because you are discussing my future without consulting me. That stops now." "You wield no authority here," Lord Thaddeus asserted, bolstering Malachi. "Do I not?" Octavia pivoted to face him, her gaze unwavering. "I am the chosen consort of your king, the woman who averted famine in the northern provinces, the strategist who restructured trade routes to elevate royal revenue by 30%. What authority precisely do you believe I lack?" Unsettled murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several council members shifted uneasily, discomfited by her direct challenge. Malachi rose slowly, his imposing height an intentional tool of intimidation. "You may have contributed administratively, but that does not alter the fact that the mate bond has not manifested. Without it, you are simply an ambitious woman attempting to cling to power." It was this accusation, an ambitious woman attempting to cling to power, that finally shattered the last vestige of Octavia's formidable restraint. Ambitious? Her voice soared, infused with an innate authority she had never consciously wielded. "You deem this ambition?" The council guards began to advance, poised to remove her. But as their hands reached for her arms, the accumulated emotional pressure of months of relentless scrutiny, familial betrayal, and the imminent threat of profound loss finally erupted within her. The transformation was not gradual. Octavia's eyes blazed with a rare, intense violet, a hue that caused several council members to instinctively recoil. Pure energy emanated from her in waves that made the candle flames flicker, and the window panes vibrate within their frames. Lord Malachi blanched dramatically. "Impossible," he whispered. The mate bond did not click into place with a gentle whisper. It arrived as a psychic thunderclap that reverberated through the entire iron citadel, a force that compelled every werewolf present, including the proud council members, to bare their throats in involuntary submission. Octavia was no ordinary Omega inadequately assessed. She was a Chimera Omega, an extraordinarily rare genetic anomaly capable of wielding alpha commanding authority in moments of extreme crisis. Her customary submissive nature had not been weakness, but a natural containment of a power that only emerged when truly necessitated. The mate bond had not been absent. It had been awaiting her full assumption of power to properly connect with a king. The silence that followed this monumental power manifestation was shattered by Sebastian's voice from the room's threshold. He had arrived. Drawn by the psychic energy emanating from the mate bond's explosive activation, his face a complex tableau of awe, relief, and something that could only be described as fierce pride. "Gentlemen," he pronounced, his voice laden with a perilous satisfaction. "Allow me to properly present my queen." The wedding ceremony transpired on the night of the 7th moon, precisely as Sebastian had pledged months prior in the Great Hall. Yet, this was no mere political formality, nor an act of royal charity. It was a coronation of war, a resounding declaration that the kingdom would be governed by two individuals who had discovered within each other not merely love, but true, synergistic completeness. The ceremony unfolded within the main Great Hall, transformed for the occasion with gilded tapestries and hundreds of candles casting a scintillating glow upon the guests' faces. Every member of the nobility who had borne witness to Octavia's initial humiliation was present, their expressions now ranging from genuine awe to respectful fear. Lord Roderick, the alpha who had so publicly rejected Octavia, was palpably discomfited throughout the entire ceremony. Octavia observed him avert his gaze whenever their eyes met, as though he had at last grasped that he had spurned not a defective Omega, but an elemental force of nature far beyond his capacity to comprehend or command. When Sebastian placed the royal crown upon her head, an ancient artifact forged of black gold, encrusted with emeralds that ensnared the light like nascent stars, Octavia felt the profound physical and symbolic weight of her new station. Yet, she also felt something more. Sebastian's primal energy surging through their mate bond, more potent and stable than it had been in months. The ancient curse of the Silver Famine was truly shattered. However, as with all true victories, this one exacted its toll. The immense energy required to break an ancestral curse and stabilize Sebastian's Lycan essence had temporarily sapped Octavia's capacity to access her wolf form. It was a physical sacrifice she had consciously and with fervent resolve accepted, knowing that her humanity would suffice to govern effectively by his side until her supernatural strength regenerated fully. Their wedding night was a symphony of reverence and profound relief. When they were finally alone within the sanctuary of their royal chambers, far from the penetrating gaze of curious eyes and political expectations, Sebastian held her face between his hands with a gentle caress that contrasted dramatically with his legend as an unyielding warrior. "You saved my life," he whispered with raw vulnerability. "We saved each other," she corrected gently, enveloping his hands with her own. "The promise of in 7 moons has been fulfilled," he murmured against her lips, a hallowed echo. "Not by the capricious hand of fate," she responded with resolute clarity, "but because two shattered beings chose, day upon arduous day, to forge themselves anew, together." Their first night as husband and wife was a careful cartography of not merely physical yearning, but of an emotional intimacy they had both believed lay beyond their grasp. Each touch, a solemn pledge, each whispered breath, a sacred renewal of vows that transcended the formal pronouncements made during the ceremony. The kingdom burgeoned under their diarchy. Octavia did not content herself with being a mere decorative consort who smiled and nodded during public events. She galvanized real administrative responsibilities, implementing the reforms she had meticulously planned during months of collaborative work with Sebastian. Trade routes were optimized, administrative corruption was systematically eradicated, and a progressive legal code was established that offered protection and unprecedented opportunities for Omegas, who demonstrated capabilities beyond traditional roles. A full year after the coronation, Octavia stood on the battlements of the Iron Citadel, gazing at the northern valleys that now prospered beneath her astute governance. Sebastian approached from behind, enveloping her with an embrace that had become both familiar and profoundly reassuring. "Any regrets now?" he asked, echoing a shared reflection from months past. "Only one," she murmured, leaning back into his strength. "Which? That it took so long to find you." Sebastian chuckled, the rich, genuine sound echoing through the clear morning. "For me, it was worth waiting for a queen who rewrote the very laws that once deemed her inadequate, proving that a wolf's true strength lies not in its claws, but in the indomitable will to survive and evolve." Octavia smiled, observing her prosperous kingdom stretch to the horizon. The The girl once rejected for being too grand for small minds had found not merely love, but her true power. And in the process, she had proven that sometimes what the world deems broken is simply something awaiting the opportune moment to truly shine. If you enjoyed this epic tale of a rejected Omega, who discovered she was a force of nature and conquered not only a king's heart, but her own royal destiny, subscribe to the channel for more Lycan King paranormal romances. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss new stories about love that breaks ancient curses, power that emerges from adversity, and the magic that happens when two souls meet at the perfect moment. Remember, true strength doesn't come from conforming to others' expectations, but from having the courage to be exactly who you were meant to be.